You've just been traveling around India, I mean, 1 month on the road. Tell us your experience about the pluralism in this short period of India, that you've been around India. What have you learned?
Namaskaram to everyone. When we say plural, generally people are understanding this as maybe 3 communities or 5 communities living together. But that's not the nature of India's pluralism. Because within the family of 5, they have 5 different gods and goddesses going. So, our pluralism is very individualism in many ways. Because this culture has always encouraged seeking. Seeking cannot be en masse, seeking is always individual. You cannot make a crowd seek something. You can make a crowd pray, you can make a crowd do something else, but you cannot make a crowd seek something. Seeking is always individual. This being the fundamental ethos of this culture, we must understand this, that these are more recent happenings probably in competition with everybody else in the world. Otherwise, this is a land which has always been a land of seeking. The highest values in this land have always been truth and liberation. Just in the previous generations, if you heard my grandmother talking, not some spiritual discourse, I'm saying daily conversation, without using the word karma, mukti, prarabdha, moksha, without this no conversation ever happened. So it was so much a part of our way of living that holding not God as the highest value, but mukti or moksha or liberation as the highest value.
And any god? Any god, you have…
No, we know the
Ishwar,
technology
Allah.
of God-making, but there's never been a God in this country. All the people that we worship are people who walked this geography at some point of time. They went through the trials and tribulations that all of us went through. In fact, probably they faced much more drama than what's happening in most of our lives. And we are not bowing down to them because they were, superhuman or something. They were human but not trampled by life that is here. And today, many people say, Sachin Tendulkar is a cricketing god. That's very much in line with our culture, because here, when we said a deva, we meant someone who has excelled beyond certain limits. They have excelled in such a way that most people think they're above humanity.
Right, but I think a quote of yours which describes India as a kaleidoscope of chaos, right?
So when we say chaos, the choice is like this: you can have a society which is like a manicured garden, and you need a gardener to take care of it every day, to trim you into place every day. Or you can have a society which is like a forest, which will anyway last for 1,000,000 years without anybody's care or concern. So we are like that, we are a jungle.
Right.
And no tending is needed, nobody needs to manage us, we somehow go on.
But Shashi Tharoor, in this forest of diversity that India is, I prefer the word diversity to pluralism because I find it difficult to get my tongue around that. It is, as he says, it is India. And is our idea of India, is there anything worrying you these days?
Yeah,
now that the British have left.
I think Sadhguru's metaphor is a perfect one, because the problem we seem to have these days is that there are some people who are coming into our jungle and trying to turn it into a manicured garden, into a garden of their design and of a particular shape which admits no other shapes, which is where I think the pluralism debate starts. It is about the various ways in which people define themselves. Religion is very much part of them, but identity in our country takes multiple forms. We have regional identities, which also require pluralism. We have caste identities, which must coexist with each other. We do have religious identities and religious differences. And there are some who seem to say that people of certain religions have more rights in this country than those of other religions. We have also diversities when it comes to things like what Malvika is going to be talking to us about, disabled people and their rights, and are we ready to accommodate them in the same way, give them the same place in the sun the rest of us take for granted. So all of these diversities are part of Indian pluralism. I wrote in India from Midnight to Millennium more than 20 years ago that the singular thing about India is that you can only speak of it in the plural. And there is not just one India, there are many Indias, just as Sadhguru said, multiple ways of experiencing India, of the reality of India, the history of India.
In this chaos and anarchy and beauty and diversity of India, are we a bit worried that we're building these walls? And how do we stop them from being built?
It is not the reality of India. I know it's definitely become a discourse in a segment of the society, but when you go down to the villages, when you go down to just ordinary people, this doesn't exist at all. I hear people shouting over each other in the television rooms, saying so many things which has absolutely no meaning.
Not on NDTV.
Yesterday…
Sorry, I had to give a quick…
Yesterday…
At NDTV.
Yesterday Vikram was holding a debate and somebody was trying to speak over somebody. He said, please, wrong channel.
Right, exactly.
All right, I get that. But
you're saying that's not a reality on the ground?
that's not the reality on the ground, not at all. It's just that, see, we are a nation with 1.3 billion people packed into 4% of the world's geography. We are nearly 20% of the population. So here and there, we step on each other's toes. If I step on your toe, you don't have to be a Muslim to hit me, all right? Because that is… everything is scarce. From everything, roads are scarce, toilets are scarce, everything is scarce. So we keep stepping on each other's toes, and here and there friction happens. But we must also understand, we are a largely unpoliced country.
Correct.
We are an unpoliced nation, there's really no police.
There's no punishment.
No, that's not the point. I'm saying there is no law enforcement to stop something happening.
Right.
Only after it happens, the police will come. You've even seen in the movies, only after everything is done, that's when they come, all right? Because for the population that we have, we don't have that much of law enforcement.
Right.
So in United States, if something happens, if you give a ring in, they say the downtime is 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Fully armed police will be there in less than that time in most places. But if you call here, only for the wrap-up. So we are not a police state. For that, I think we are an extremely peaceful country, unpoliced.
Right.
But everything is scarce, there's enormous poverty, deprivation. So here and there skirmishes happen, that not necessarily because of differences of religion, caste or creed, mainly for economic reasons. There will be rubs here and there.
Right. But I worry a bit about you saying people you don't like. Is that…
No, I'm saying if you don't like somebody and they build something beautiful for you,
But are you talking
isn't
about
there a double joy?
But when you say somebody you don't like, you're not talking about a community.
No, I'm
talking about
not saying…
individual.
I'm saying I mean, I did not know that Taj Mahal is pulled out of the tourism thing. I really did not know that. I'm saying the only reason why you may do such a thing is because you don't like someone who built it, because there is a history of invasion, there is cruelty, there are terrible truths of the past. Shashi has been… I am yet to read the book, I have the book, but I've heard him speak here and there about all the things that have been done during the British era, which is very cruel.
Absolutely.
But if we go to UK now, we don't hate those people. Yes, they have done this to us, we should never forget it. We should never forget it. This has been done to us because this should not be done to us once again. But it does not mean today's generation of English people, we have to hate them.
Correct.
No, that's not it. So the
If you
same
could
goes…
give us the Kohinoor back, that's the least you could have
No,
done.
that is that same goes for Islamic invasions, they've done terrible things to us. But we don't have to forget it, we should not forget it.
Also, they stayed and became us, Sadhguru.
Huh?
They stayed and became us. There were some invaders who came and looted and left. But for many of the people, such as the emperor who built the Taj Mahal, they are us. They are part of our soil, assimilated into our culture.
Say, I want you to know, if there was no World War II, British also would have stayed. So that doesn't mean that happened because of their love for you.
No, but Sadhguru, they sent everything from here back to England, whereas these people, even whatever they looted, they spent here. There is a difference.
That is because it's another time when there were no ships.
Technical problem, isn't it? No,
There were ships, there were ships.
Transportation issues.
And besides, they had a land route back home to the Fergana Valley, they didn't use it.
That's not easy to go.
But you say, whether they did or not, one should not hate them now and should not build walls around them now. Is that your message?
See, what I'm saying is, historically, many ugly things have been done by different people.
Quite right.
Ugly things that have happened to us as a nation, we must remember.
Ugly things we've done to ourselves also.
That also is there, that's another aspect.
Right.
What others have done to us, we must remember, but we should not become bitter because this bitterness will destroy us. Why we should remember is so that we don't make the same mistakes and get into the same pit once again. That's very important for me.
Of course.
But at the same time, if today, let's say, UK spoke the same language that it spoke during the colonial era, definitely we will not accept them. Unfortunately, with certain groups of people, they're trying to speak the same language which was historically spoken way back. So this creates a whole lot of confrontation in the society. And this entire misuse of this for democratic purposes, when I say democratic purposes, because it's all a number game, so people are playing this game for last 70 years. So naturally you have kind of brought this little bit of fear in others. Fear means people are seeing what's happening in Iraq and the Islamic State and stuff, what happened in Kashmir. So people think if these numbers increase, this will happen to us also, because it's happened in the past. So I feel if one thing stops, I think this entire little bit of heat going on between communities will die, that is, you don't try to change the dynamics of demographics. Just let it stay this for next 100 years, without anybody trying to increase numbers, you will see everything will level out. This is the only fear. That's why there is reaction.
What religion are you? What religion are you?
I never identified with myself with any religion as such, because we must understand this, religion is a very foreign thing to India. Because when you say if you have to belong to a certain religion, you have to believe something. But this has always been a land of seekers. We never ever believed anything. It doesn't matter, even when the so-called divine entities came, when Shiva came, his wife asked 1,000,000 questions. The Shiva Sutra is full of questioning. And if Krishna comes, this man, his disciple, supposed to be asked 1,000 questions. Whoever came, no entity, however divine they were considered to be, could give us a commandment. Only debate he got. Because there was no such idea as the God in our minds ever. So there is no belief system, so how can you say there is a religion?
So there are similarities between exclusion of and marginalization of people who are disabled, but there's also a very different kind of hatred that's exploited by wonderful politicians as well.
Well, I hope I'm exempt, because I'm very much passionately a believer in inclusive India.
I'm also exempt from the health problem.
I don't like to demonize anybody, especially for things they can't help. I mean, demonizing somebody for the faith into which they were born, or the community in which they live, or the way they look, or the color of their skin, or the language they're brought up to speak, or the clothes they wear, or the food they eat.
Sadhguru says, just a fear, it's a fear.
So, I was intrigued to hear Sadhguru say that, because obviously some of the fear is stoked up. It is stoked, as you yourself said, partly for political purposes.
No.
Unfortunately, there is often a politics of polarization that assumes that whipping up certain sentiments will gather certain votes for a particular community. There is a politics of identity that says, let's promote the interests of our caste alone, or our group alone, or our faith alone, at the expense of others. So I'm certainly not accepting the political process whatsoever from this. But at the same time, it is not right, it seems to me, to suggest that this is somehow natural. It is actually, no baby is born intolerant. Somebody's teaching that baby its attitudes, its beliefs, whom to like, whom to dislike. And in the same way, I think in our politics, we are allowing some of our leaders to tell us whom to dislike and why, for reasons that in fact are not part of our daily lives. You rightly said, in the villages of India, people live side by side and they don't feel any of this hatred and unpleasantness.
Is that a correct interpretation of what you meant?
No, because...
Not. It's not.
Taking,
you got it wrong again.
See, I don't wish to take a political stance because I've never associated myself with any political ideology at any time, not today. So, what I see is, what we are today, in many ways, we are products of history. We cannot completely eliminate it. The British history that you have extensively spoken about, written about, the thing about the British is they exploited you commercially. For them, you were just a resource. They had no other interest in you. They don't care which god you worship, whether you go to your temple or you don't go to your temple.
Is it okay that they eat beef?
Huh? I'm sorry?
Is it okay that they eat beef?
If you have a wrong choice of food, it's up to you. What's my problem?
So anybody can eat beef is their choice. Is that what you're saying?
Okay,
of course.
No, what I'm saying is…
That goes against what a lot of people feel.
I'll come to that. We can look at that later. This aspect. But when it comes to these religious invasions that happened, whatever the thought behind that thought you must surrender. You see, if I do something horrible to you today, 10 days later if we meet, at least I must show some regret or remorse in what I have done. When I'm proud of what I have done to you, this is not going to settle, all right? This is what you're expecting. When people are very proud of what they have done to you in the past, now you want it to settle, it's not going to settle. It is just… I'm saying it'll just be an academic debate. It is not going to be a social reality. I am not interested in any debate unless it's a solution for the problems that we are in.
So what's the solution?
The solution is… the important thing is, you can do whatever you want, but you have no business to tell me what I should do, all right?
And vice versa.
Everywhere. I'm saying for anybody.
Yes, yes.
Essentially, this is this. Because people believe certain things, because everything that you have to ever know in the universe is written in one book, people are insecure about that because we know what's written. The question is not whether everybody is like that or not. We're just afraid one day book will play upon us. So one thing that you have to do is, first thing, whatever the past cruelties that have been done, many things, it's not a simple process.
Right.
See, people have forgotten what has happened in this Delhi, what has happened in one afternoon. One afternoon, 20,000 people were killed in one of these days, three centuries ago. People have not forgotten these things because they know what will happen to them. And what has happened in Kashmir, people have not forgotten. Maybe people try to act like it didn't happen, but it has happened. So, if the demographics don't change, you will see everything will settle down. The thing is, continuously people in a very strategic way trying to change the demographic dynamic. Now people are afraid because they know if the numbers increase, what will happen to them? So just don't do that one thing, you will see all problems will settle, believe me. Right. I know the communities very well.
Right. At least you're positive and optimistic about it, but you do bring a lot of history into what people's fear today is, and that is a bit worrying. There is a Buddhist tale about two Buddhist monks walking down the road, and they come to a part which is lot of mud and water, and there's an old lady there, and she wants to cross. And one of the monks takes her on takes her on his back and takes her across. And while he's taking her across, she kicks him and beats him and says, "You're hurting me, don't go this way," and curses him and shouts at him. Finally goes around, puts the other side and puts her down, and both the monks walk on. And after 2 hours, one monk says to the older one, "That lady was so horrible and you didn't say anything. You just let her go. Why didn't you say something?" And he says, "You're still carrying that lady? I put her down 2 hours ago." Shouldn't you put down your history?
That's what I said.
Just put it down.
I think that story is totally not relevant to me.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Not relevant to the situation either, because the story is not the situation is not about what happened. The situation is that there is no sense of remorse or regret about what happened.
You want the lady to regret?
Not the lady. See, that's a totally different I think I have a better way of telling that story. That's a
You have a better way of telling most stories.
No, that's not the point. That is a spiritually significant story. That's a different matter.
Okay.
This is a reality which we are living in, where people who firmly believe their way is the only way to go to heaven, all right? First of all, I'm not interested in going to your heaven, so leave me alone. But you keep on trying to change the demographics, there will be fear. If you think that is an empty fear, then you have to see what's happened. What is happening even now in certain parts of the world, you must see. It is not an empty fear. So I'm saying, whatever you believe, it's your faith.
So you say…
First of all, let me finish this.
Sure.
I feel, the moment you believe something, you are disabling yourself. Because belief essentially for me means you are not straight enough to admit you do not know. As far as I'm concerned, either I know something or I don't know something, that's all there is. Everything that you don't know, you believe, and you want me to believe the same thing? No. So this culture has never imposed anything on anybody because nobody believes anything. We are seekers. Seeker means what? You can be a genuine seeker only when you realize you do not know.
Right.
So, this is of a certain nature. Now in reaction, unfortunately, we also tending to become like that, which is a very sad thing, okay? But at the same time, a society is not made by… till now at least, maybe in future it might. Society is not made by spiritual wisdom. Unfortunately, it's made on the streets, how people react, how they fight, how they defend themselves, what they can preserve, what they cannot preserve. This is how societies are made still. It's a crude way of doing things, but that is how it's made and that's how it is till now.
But didn't you just say earlier that you've traveled around India recently and throughout your life, even as a young man, when you were on a motorbike, people live with each other in complete peace and harmony and without fear, without thinking of the history and without thinking of numbers.
Even now it is true.
And Shashi says that…
I'm telling you, even now it is true, except those communities which are kind of little ghettoed, except in those places. Everywhere else, even now it is true in this India. Just now, 30 days I've driven across the country.
Right.
Even now it is true. Every kind of people, every kind of community leaders came to me and spoke to me and I spoke to them, all this happens.
Right.
I'm saying, one thing is a whole lot of people, particularly, political class is trying to exploit the differences, all right?
I think you agree on that.
I think I agree with Sadhguru. The thing is that
when I say political class, I don't mean to say every political person is doing it. After all,
right.
Politics is a dirty job that somebody is doing for us because we are not willing to do it.
That's right. So someone like you who has such a major role in society as a Sadhguru, should you and others like you not take on the role of educating people to overcome the fears you mentioned? I mean, the fear of demography is even mathematically an absurd one. 80% of the population is Hindu. How can they be afraid of a small minority of a smaller minority? And what is the demographic calculation by which this number can overcome us? Should we not educate them to leave their fear behind and say, look, let bygones be bygones, as he said, put that baggage down. You referred to Nadir Shah's attack in Delhi, 1739. I've written about the British attack in Delhi, 1857. But if we can forget the British, let's forget Nadir Shah too.
No, we can forget it. We just have to make sure it doesn't get repeated, that's all. I will tell you what's the fear.
But you're not justifying hate.
I am not
right?
justifying.
I'm
saying,
that's fine.
First and foremost thing is, whatever people have done historically, we don't have to hold it as a reality today.
Correct.
Only thing is, all communities should distance themselves from that historical events. But I will tell you, wherever there is a certain majority, you will see all other things get naturally pushed out, totally, which is not the way this country has operated. I am telling you, in Tamil Nadu, if I go to certain districts, without asking me, the state provides me security. I say, why? So, Sadhguru, you don't understand, certain communities are saying you are coming and you will convert them into something else which is not their way. So they put police around me. I say, what nonsense, in India, why do I need police around me, for me? They say, that's not the way it is. It happened in Tamil Nadu when I went to Kanyakumari. They put over 300 armed police around me. I said, what the hell is this? I've never asked for security in my life, in Tamil Nadu especially. But they put armed police in a program where there are about 12,000 people, I'm walking up and down the ramp and speaking, these armed men are walking up and down with me. This. See, we must understand one fundamental ethos of Indian psyche. We don't really have a problem what God you worship, because in the same family there are 32 gods and goddesses.
And there is Ishvara Allah Tero Naam.
No, that's okay, but I'm saying even before that.
Yeah.
See, every other form of whatever… I'll tell you one thing, you take one picture of some pious-looking man, usually they must be bearded if it's a man, and take it and give it to one old…
I'm glad you didn't use the word God-man.
I'll come to that God-man, I think I should restructure that one. If you give this picture to an old lady in some village and say, this is a great sage, she will keep it in her puja room and worship without knowing who the hell he is. Do you understand? This is the only culture which does that. So do not destroy that by imposing something forceful, you have to believe this, otherwise you're not this or that. You don't have to believe anything to be in this country, okay? You don't have to believe anything to be a part of this culture, because everybody can do their own thing. That is, we know the technology of God-making. For every one of us, we made our own God. There's something called as Ishta Devata, that you can create your own god or goddess.
That's true.
If you like the tree, you can make the tree into your god. If you like a rock, you can make a rock into your god. This is a phenomena. This is the most wonderful thing, because this is a dimension of life which should never be organized. Because the moment it's organized, it becomes something else. So this we realized from ancient times, and we made it in such a way it can never be organized. There is a desperate attempt to organize it, but it's not working.